Hey, you guys, it's me. It's a little late. I got my little glitter disco ball. Has my back right now. I wanted to talk to you guys. It's late here. Alder's sleeping. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about what's been going on. Um, so much. So much has been happening that I don't even know where to begin. All I can tell you is where I am right now. And however it naturally comes into the conversation is how it will come in. So basically, as of this moment today, I almost said March, interesting. April, February. Hello, February. I live in February right now. February 24th, 2023. I feel like Stardate log. But as of today, we are moving into the cabin again. We had a little come to Jesus with our landlord. It was both insightful and invigorating, really, because it made me look at things in a whole different perspective and to even more deeply understand like why we're here, why we're going through this. Like, I mean, especially the last like week has just been like almost like hell week. And the interesting thing is, I kept getting this vibe from spirit. Those of you who know, those of you who are in the know we've been in this rent to buy situation of this amazing, magical, witchy cabin up on a hill overlooking the Strait of Juan de Fuca. It's just this magical, magical place. It has its own like road. There's no one around. It was an old logging property. And the cabin needs a lot of work, and from the beginning when we found it, I told the owner that I didn't think it was the right fit for us because I was like, it needs a lot of work. And he's like, oh, no, it's not as bad as it looks, blah, blah. I'm like, energetically, I'm like, and he knew I was a medium and everything. But just this whole process with him and his family has been really wild on multiple levels, but beautiful too, because we are all connected somehow. Like, we've been family before, for sure. Like, there's no doubt about it. He even has my dad's birthday, which is coming up on February 28th. And he's going to be 80. And my dad died when he was 64. So it was just very interesting. It's been really interesting because he is so much like my father. It's creepy. Like if I never thought I was in some type of game simulation before on this planet, that definitely would have, like, you know what I mean? I was like, no, this is like fucking like I'm looking at my dad, like I'm talking to my dad, like I'm arguing with my dad. And so it's been all over the place, and it would take me way too long, and it's too late and I'm too high, but I just wanted to pop in and talk to you guys about it because I know some of you, you either found me through YouTube or you've been following me on my other channel that I've had for a long time. It used to be Lula's Labyrinth, and now it's called The Magical Medium. It's been The Magical Medium for over a year now. And they wanted me to start Lula's Life because Lula's Labyrinth was kind of like everything in my life, which was also my spirit work. And then I knew eventually they were going to have me like pull my spirit work into another channel. I just didn't know how it was going to evolve or what was going to happen. And so I've just been like really trying to learn how to go in the flow of everything. And every time I'm ready to give up on my channel, like really magical things happen. So I know I'm supposed to keep it. And when the pandemic started, I had 67 subscribers. And from the pandemic until like last summer, I think I had about 250. And then from last summer until now, as of today, it was 480 something. I don't want to say because like sometimes people subscribe and then they unsubscribe or they're bots or whatever. So it's somewhere in that area. So it's definitely growing, and it's exciting, and I'm growing and I'm changing and I'm evolving. But it's been so intense. Like, I just feel like Alder and I have been through so much in almost 8 years. And every time I'm ready to like give up and walk away or whatever, um, he's there to fight, and I'm like ready to give up. And today well, actually, this whole week we've had a lot of talks because astrologically, I think it started February 18th or something. There was a lot going on for Sagittarius, and I'm a triple Sag, and my moon's in Scorpio, and he's a triple Gemini, and his moon is in Sag. So we were just sparring like crazy. And then, as most of you know that have been following, that we were going forward with the cabin, but we had all these stops and goes and stops and goes. And I'm like, gosh, just everything I've ever like learned, studied, like everything I've ever done with spirit, my spirit guides, whatever. I was like, it's always told me that, if there's too many obstacles or too many red flags, like that's a no. But then every time we'd go to walk away, I'd get like, you know, okay, spirit, if I'm supposed to stay here, have two eagles, like fly down, blah, blah, blah. That happened recently, actually, when one of our tribe members, Zoe, was visiting, and she's like, didn't you fucking ask for two eagles? She's like, I'm like, I know, see what I mean? I'm like, I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Because it goes up and down and up and down. Sorry, I'm having these like major back issues lately. Because I'm just not sleeping well. Like I've just been like all over the planet. I can tell I'm going through some major metamorphosis and some major transformation, and which is why I thank you for sticking with me on this channel too, and my silly little shorts and my acting shit out or whatever. It's been fun. It's been cathartic. I was an actor, a singer, and a performer for a long time. Um, I mean, just my whole life, I've always been a natural performer, but yeah, so it's been a really good outlet for me. So thank you. And it's also kind of getting me ready because I know I'm ready to do music. Like, I'm starting to really feel like it's time for me to make music. And I don't know how it's going to happen or what's going to happen, but I can feel it. So there's just a lot of change and transformation is happening within me and my family, and every stage, every time he would say the cabin's almost done, the cabin's almost done. We've gone through it 4 times now. Um, we get all ready and geared up to move in, and then they have another setback, and I was like, what the fuck? And I know that's normal in remodeling. Like, I do know this, like I do know, um, but at the same time, there's a limit. You know what I mean? It's like they found us, actually, the people who own this property, they found us in July through Craigslist. We had put a wanted out because we were wanting to live up here, and it's really hard to find a place to live up here where we wanted to live. And so I was like, it can't hurt, to put something in. We had a lot of people respond to us. It was really cool, but we were really drawn to this family and this property and this house. And so we kept sticking with it because he offered, first it was just going to be a work trade. Then it was going to be, we were just going to rent it. And then it turned into a rent to buy. We were really excited about that because we're both, in our 50s, and we don't want to, or we want to buy something, but we don't have any equity. We work for ourselves, so we don't have a lot of, on paper, we're like, a risk, basically. So we were like, well, this was cool if you do a rent to buy option, and I've learned so much. We've learned so much about the rent to buy option, and that's actually really cool. And for being first time buyers, we actually were getting a lot of support, and I was feeling really excited about it because even though we don't love the house and love the property, it's an excellent investment. I mean, it's an excellent investment. This area is growing faster and faster, and the house, or the property that the house is on, is one of the only properties like within like so many miles that actually is on a well. So, it's not the best drinking water, but we can get a filter, for sure. And if not, like, I don't mind getting like the local spring water. That's fine. It's just, it had all these good things. Like there was just all these wonderful things. We were just like we'd be stupid to walk away from this deal. But slowly, surely, like over the time, we've got to witness so much and really get to know the house and the property. And when Zoe came to visit, she's, very connected like I am. And so I was like, I just want you to tell me what you think. I want you to, I go, all the bullshit aside, all of our arguments with him and all that aside, I'm like, tell me what you think. And so we didn't talk. I just let her kind of like observe or whatever. And then finally I was like, I could tell, I was like, what's up? And she goes, I totally understand. She's like, the view is magnificent. Like we're looking at the view. It's like daytime. She's like, it's magical. She's like, it's beautiful here. There's like the birds were, you know what I mean? It was like magical. She goes, I get it. It's got an archway in the cabin. It's an old little witchy cabin. Really high ceilings with a loft, lots of big windows and light. And she was like, no, I can totally see why you love it. I can see why you would want it. She goes, but I just want to be like, oh, this is your house. And she's like, and I just don't feel that. She's like, I just don't feel that, And I'm like, nope, that's exactly what I said too. I go, no, don't be upset about it. I go, I needed that. I needed that, because sometimes when we want something or we're not 100% sure, or like myself, Alder and I, we kind of joke, we're both runners and, we like to run away from things. And it's something we've been working on a lot over the last few years. And so, I'm like, am I just running away because it's not perfect? You know what I mean? Am I just running away because it's not on the time that I want it to be? And when we really start separating like our ego, that's the fucking hardest part. It's like, in so many ways, it's our dream spot. But there's a few boxes that aren't checked that, yes, we could change that. But I was like, no, I kind of feel like it's going to be like Miracle on 34th Street, where she's like, stop the car. And she just knows, which is funny because I want to swing too. Like I want a big old elder tree with a swing, where the tree's strong enough that it's okay for me to swing on it. It's like, you ain't hurting me, girl. I want to put my feet in lush grass. I want to hear running water, not a freeway. And the freeway in a weird way is very calming in some ways because it's 60 miles an hour. So we're up on the hill, but we're off of a freeway. So it's like we can still like kind of hear it. And I thought, well, I can put in, when you're in the house, you can't hear it at all. But when you're outside, you can, but only if it's like really busy. But like if, and like we've been up there and there are times where I'm like, wow, you can't hear traffic at all. And it's like really quiet, because the freeway is kind of quiet because it's on the peninsula. So it's not like we're like a major, like the 405 or something, for those of you on the West Coast, you know what I'm talking about. It's a little different. And so I was like, well, we can put in water features. I was like, there's all these things that I was like, that we can do. And it was really interesting because, even though I found different places that I thought would be great meditation spots because the view is just phenomenal. And, we're on the strait between the Canadian mountains and the Olympic mountains. So it's really, really magical. It's like almost everywhere you look, it's magnificent. And then on a really clear day, you can see Mount Baker and it looks like it's floating in the clouds. And it's really, really magnificent. So she said, you said something about you want people to be able to come here and relax and like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, that's not relaxing. I'm like, that's what I said. I'm like, that's what I said. I'm like, that's what I said. So like, that's when I really knew, because I was like, okay, she is thinking the same way I'm thinking. And that's when I knew. So long story short, those of you who know that things were, even though it's been taking time and all this shit's been going on and family members had COVID and just like, it was just forever. Basically, we were supposed to be in there. We found each other in July. We were supposed to be in by September 1st, and today's February 24th. So do the math. Yeah. And it's been up and down and up and down. We've tried to walk away a few times, and he's like, no, he's like, it's going to get done. I promise, I promise, I promise. But then it never, there's always just something. And we've been living off the grid in his RV, which is nice. I mean, it's 84, it's got shag carpeting. That part's not nice, but in terms of like livable, it's livable. And they finally got the well working, so we get the water. Before we had to go and get the water from the river, it was really, really hard. Um, but anyway, but we really learned how to live off the grid, and we've talked about living off the grid, so we got to live off the grid with this. We're not as high up, we're like halfway up the hill, so we do have a view, but it's like through the trees, it's obstructed. But um, I can go and walk up to the cabin anytime I want and see the view. But I really haven't. That's been the weird thing too. Like, I just haven't, I don't know. Cause I think every time I'd go up there, I'd get mad or I'd get depressed. Cause I'm like, it's like our stuff has been living in there. We like cleaned and like the big room there, the master bedroom, which is going to be my office slash studio. We completely like cleaned that, and I like hosed it down with like essential oils and cinnamon and blessed it and all this stuff and smudged it, and then we put our stuff in there, and then we sealed off the room so when they were doing work and stuff, our things didn't get destroyed. But I laughed. I was like, our stuff has literally been living in there longer than we haven't even been in there yet. Our stuff's been in there since like October, since we took it out of storage because we thought we were going to be moving in. I mean, it's just been like one thing after the other. So after the last time the boy cried wolf and said he was like, I'm going to visit family. I'm leaving on January 17th. I'm not going to be back until sometime in February. He's like, but you'll be in. Don't worry, don't worry. And we're like, okay. And we literally talked to him like 2 days before he left. The bathroom was almost done. We were super excited. And I said, I don't even care if you finish the rest of the bathroom. If you can just get the toilet in. I'm like, we've made it this far. I'm like, we can make it work until you get back, whatever. And he's like, oh yeah. Don't worry about it. It's going to be done. I'm like, okay. Texts us the day before he's leaving and it's like, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't get to finish it. And I knew because I didn't hear them come up for like 2 days. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's not going to happen. So we were really kind of frustrated by it. But, I was like, what are we going to do? You just got to do what you got to do. So then he left. And about a week after he left, I sent him a message and I was just like, hey, just an FYI, I'm like, I'm kind of going off the grid for a little while. Um, you know, uh, Basically, I said, don't call me, I'll call you, kind of thing. And he said, sounds good. And he said, don't worry about it. I'll let everybody know, at the house, because we get mail and stuff sent there. And I was like, okay. Because our landlord lives like 5 miles away from this property. Then Zoe came to visit, and the night before, or the night that she came here, there was all these red flags too. Like, we both had this feeling like she was supposed to come sooner and blah blah blah. We ended up being stuck in traffic, the floating bridge between where we are and whatever. There was an accident, and so the bridge was closed. We got stuck in traffic for 4.5 hours. It would have taken us an hour to get home. Then after the 4.5 hours, we were getting the vibe that it wasn't going to move for a long time. So we ended up having to drive all the way back down to the peninsula, 3 hours back home. It was insane. It was insane. And then the next morning, she and I were doing spirit work, and all of a sudden we heard a car pull up, and I knew it wasn't our car. And I was like, oh my God. And I knew it was our landlord's, friend who actually used to live on the property. And he was just like, hey, he's like, the landlord, just wanted you to, sign the documents today and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Come to find out that basically it is true that we are living here, but we aren't living here. We've been like staying in here. We're not living in the cabin. And he wanted us to sign a lease for the cabin because he was trying to, get something going, to buy this other house, this investment property. And he was below like, I guess $1,000 or something. And so he was just like, can we just sign the lease now so that, it'll show to them that you're paying us. And I was just like, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm like, that feels really, really weird. And the weird thing is he'd been trying to get us to do this before. And I told him, I go, it's really fucking shady. He's like, it's not shady. He's like, you guys have been living here, for free. He's like, we haven't signed anything. He's like, I'm trusting that you guys, blah, blah, blah. And it was just shady. And, being a telepath, it's kind of hard sometimes because, I see everybody's good and their bad. And I do my best not to judge it because it's not, we're all allowed to have our own thoughts and whatever. And I don't like people in my head either, so I'm like, well, but it's so weird because I totally trust him in some ways. And in other ways, I'm like, dude, he's shady, man. I'm like, he's fucking shady. And that's who he is. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do business with shady people. I'm like, that's shady to me. So we ended up not signing it. And then he blew up my fucking phone and was like, basically threatened me. Thank God Zoe was here because I had her listen to the messages. Well, I put it on voice, on speaker or whatever, and she listened to it. And one of the last messages he left was kind of like, if you don't sign this, like, I'll get somebody else to live in the cabin, blah, blah, blah. I was like, whoa. And I was like, no, sir. Ego or not, I'm like, you're not going to threaten me. You're not going to threaten my family. I'm like, we're done. So that was it for me. I was like, we're done. I'm like, he owes us money anyway for like work trade that we've done. And I was like, we're out of here. We're out of here. We're out of here. So the last message he left was, we'll talk about this when I get back. Like a father. I was like, dude, he's like my dad. Like, we'll talk about this when I get home. And so we didn't hear from him for like 2 weeks. And we've just been waiting like for it to like the other shoe to drop. I'm like, oh, he's gonna kick us out when he gets back. But in the meantime, the interesting thing is that the plot thickens. So Alder's cousin was getting rid of this old Volkswagen 1993 Eurovan. And he's like, it just needs some TLC. He's like, but those are going for a pretty penny right now. And long story short, he gifted it to us because he had to get it off this old property he was on, and he has MS, and he's like, I can't work on it anymore. And he and Alder have been doing a lot of stuff together. And so he was just like, here, let me, help you guys. So I said, well, if worse comes to worse, I'm like, we'll either put our shit in storage, we'll sell it. I said, and if we have to live in that van, then we have to live in that van. I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody fucking like bully me into doing something that feels really wrong. And mostly it wasn't even that. Like, I knew what he wanted. It wasn't, and we are living here. Like, he's like, it's not, whatever. And I said, I'm like, I don't feel like you're supposed to do this deal. And I I can't explain it or whatever. And so anyway, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but long story short, we were for sure like done. And then I heard from Spirit, or I said to him the other day, I go, well, he said if he's having a good time, he'll be there past his birthday, but if he's not, he'll be back before. And so I kept getting this vibe we weren't going to see him until March. And then this past Monday, so today is Friday the 24th, so this past Monday on the new moon, it was really, really interesting because it was a new moon, it was a super moon. Alder and I have been fighting for days, and we decided, to run errands and do all these things because we were getting this snowstorm and this cold snap was coming in. So we're like, well, let's just get prepared. We have to get propane and water. There's so much we have to do living off the grid in those kind of situations, especially if things are going to ice over or freeze over, like we have to do it. And so we did all that stuff and we came back here and my phone had been off and I went to turn it on because we were going to watch a movie. And I turn on my phone and what do I see? A voicemail. He's the only one that leaves me voicemails, except for my mom, who's not supposed to, but she does anyway, which is why I've been thinking about changing my number again. And 2422, by the way. I'll have to look up that angel number. So he just said, hey, it's me. I'm back. Reach out when you can or whatever. And we just like looked at each other and we didn't say anything. We just like didn't say anything to each other. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, I feel like my stomach just sank. He's like, mine too. I'm like, oh gosh. I'm like, So we talked about it. We talked about it. And I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, let's just, should we just get over with? I'm like, yep, let's just get over with. So we decided to get over with, and we went over to his house. We were like fully prepared. We were like, but fully prepared to hear the worst. And he's like, hey, so how are you guys doing? He asked about Bubba, he's like, how are things going? And we're like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. And we're both like, fine. He's like, well, come on in, sit down. And we're like, and so we started talking. And at first it was, I don't know how it came out, but I said something like, or he said something like, oh, we're going to get into the cabin this weekend. And I go, oh. And he's like, why? Did you change your mind again or something like that? And I said, no. I'm like, you basically told us that we couldn't live there anymore. So we've just been waiting for you to come home and tell us that we have to get out. And he's like, oh, I was mad, blah, blah. I go, did you get the loan? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I had, so-and-so do this for me and that for me, move stuff around. He's like, yeah. He's like, I got it. And he's like, he's like, but I was really, really mad at you. And he like starts this whole thing, and I just couldn't hold back. I didn't care. And I go, you're mad at us? I'm like, you wanted us to commit fraud, and you're mad at us. And he's like, oh, come on. He's like, he's like, it's not fraud. I go, it is fraud. And I said, I wasn't going to sign a document that, like, not only that, but like, it was like such a lame lease agreement that like came off like the internet. And the fourth thing I saw was no pets. And I was like, we have Bubba. I'm not going to sign something. I was just like, and then finally I was like, dude, I don't trust you. I go, I don't fucking trust you. I go, there's no way I was going to sign that document. No way. Not only that, but he had it predated in December of 2022 to show that he already has a steady income. And I understood why he was doing it. Like, and we were supposed to be in there. And he's like, well, if you've been living in there. And I go, yeah, no shit, Sherlock Holmes. I'm like, if you fucking had the place done, we would be living in there and it all would have been on the up and up. But since it's not, I'm not doing that. And it's so interesting because while we were having this discussion, I started to just realize, like, I'm like, we're not supposed to buy this house. I just felt it with every fiber of my being. I'm like, we're not supposed to buy this house. I'm like, I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because Spirit doesn't want us to deal with him, because we're not even in a contract yet. So we'd have to be in a contract for like a year, in order to do the rent to buy. So I was like, no. I'm like, I don't feel, now that's right now. I don't know what's going to happen. But as of right now, I don't feel like we're supposed to buy it. So I told him, I go, you know what, let's just concentrate on us renting it. And then we'll just go from there. And he's like, okay. And it was so funny because when we were leaving, he's like, all right, he's like, well, you guys will be in there the 1st of March. And I'm like, stop. I'm like, stop saying that. I go, let's just say we'll get in there when we get in there. Because he puts these things out there and then he doesn't finish, and something else comes up, and it's just better to, you know what I mean? Like, we've made it this far. Winter's almost over. I was like, if we made it this far, I'm like, we're going to be okay. So after all of that, then Zoe has been like going through her own stuff too. And then like it occurred to me, I was like, well, why don't you just like, we have this van. I said, when the weather, 'cause she's been staying with her mom about 2 hours from us. And I said, well, when the weather clears up, we can really, gut this van and make it into a cute little, tiny home. And I said, you can live in there until you figure out like your next moves or whatever. And so she's getting excited about that. I don't know for sure if that's what's supposed to happen, but that's what feels like supposed to happen. And as of right now, I think it's just better for everybody if we just rent, Yeah, not only that, but it's like he keeps acting like he's doing us a favor. And I was just like, when we first saw this cabin, if you had seen the way it looked then, the way it looks now, he said, oh, I would have still got the same amount of money for it, whether I did these changes or not. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm thinking you probably, by the time he's done with the bathroom and like we do up the kitchen and stuff, I'm like, because we asked if we can take control of the kitchen because he had these old counters and whatever. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with them. He's like, I'm not going to pay for it. He's like, if you want to replace it, that's up to you. So we like using furniture more than like, we don't need like the counter and the sink. It's like we got like a cool standalone sink. We got our own little fun setup. And so I was like, we don't need to concern ourselves with that. But I was like, trust me when I tell you, by the time I know how I improve properties and what I can do to it. So I was like, trust me when I tell you that if we end up living there, if he does want to sell it and people want to come look at it while we live there, he's definitely going to have a better chance selling it that way than he would the way we saw it. It was fucking like mouse infested, like animal feces. Like it was scary. It was an old abandoned logger's cabin that was made with like, pixie sticks, no permits. You know what I mean? Like old school. And it's cute as hell, and it's really awesome. Like they built, an addition onto it, but now that I see the bare bones of it, if I were to buy this property, I would absolutely tear that fucking house down and start over. There's no way I would. I know too much. I've seen too much. You know what I mean? Like as it is, it's, I can handle living there. But anyway, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so stay tuned. I don't know what else is going to happen, or I am getting an inkling though, and those of you who know me know that even though I'm from the south side of Chicago, I have lived in 5 different states, and I have literally lived in the United States. I've either lived or traveled upon the whole western seaboard from the top of Cape Flattery of Washington down to Brookings, Oregon, and then from San Francisco all the way down to the Baja Peninsula. But the only place I haven't been is between San Francisco and Brookings, Oregon. Actually, I don't even think I've been as far as Brookings. No, I think Florence. I take that back. Brookings is the one I always wanted to go to. My partner has been there. But I've been to Florence. That little chunk is the only chunk that I have not seen or been to on that whole western seaboard. Think about that for a second. That's a lot. So I said that I want to take a vacation, and especially like when we were like thinking about Zoe coming here, I said, "Oh my gosh," I'm like, we can go on vacation and like have Zoe watch Bubba. Although we have his cousin George too. George would do that as well. But I was just thinking it'd be fun for her. Like she can have a break to herself too. Like we can go on a vacation. She can have the house to herself for a week, and her and Bubba love each other. So it would be really fun for them. But I got this vibe, like I have to get to the redwoods this year. Like I have to. Like it's almost like weird that I haven't been there yet, as much as I love trees and they're like such a part of me, and Ents and all that, like I love all that. So, and the Lemurians have been calling to me. In fact, it was interesting because Zoe, a lot of people had gifted me a lot of things, and so I was going through stuff, and I gifted Zoe a bunch of things. And then when she was getting ready to leave, she gifted us a lot of magical things. But one of the things she gifted us was a Lemurian starseed crystal. And it was one of the first crystals I ever touched and worked with, was the Lemurian crystal. And my hand felt like it was like on fire. Like my hand was like sweating. It was like crazy. I held it in my hand walking just 10 minutes home, and it was like when I got home, it was like I literally, like no joke, like had like beads of like sweat going down. Now I'm a natural Reiki, but there was something really special about that, and just all the research I've done with like Lemurian starseed crystals and just the Lemurians in general. So I feel like, and also my husband has a family member that lives in Weed, California. So I feel like we're meant to go in that area. So either we're meant to just travel there this year, or we're meant to travel there and then meet new people and move there. Because he's always wanted to live in a warm climate, and I had to move out of LA. I'm after like almost 8 years, I thought it was probably about 8.5 years, because I felt like I was going to lose my mind, because I grew up, with 4 seasons in the Midwest. So living in California all that time, I started to seriously feel batshit. I was like, I need seasons, man. Like I was just like, I need fucking snow. I need seasons. And I could go to Big Bear and stuff, but it wasn't the same. I was like, no, I need to like I need to see rain. It was just like, it was just too much. So I don't know. I mean, I really like Southern Oregon, or I've really been interested in Southern Oregon too. There's a Shakespearean company down there, and oh gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. You know what I'm talking about if you know that area. And like, I know another witch who lives down in Grants Pass. So like, there's just a lot of cool magic going on down there. And I feel like I'm meant to make some connections up here, maybe even for another year. I don't know. But let's just put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up moving back to California. I don't like a lot of things about California, but there are some things that I do like about California. Northern California is definitely somewhere that I've been interested in, and I know they have a lot of fires and a lot of problems and issues and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know. But I'm definitely drawn to uh, the Redwoods area and that part of the ocean as well. Like, kind of where uh, Oregon and California meet somewhere up there. There's been a few opportunities that we almost had a work opportunity up there or down there, but it didn't feel right. There were so many things that were good again, but it just didn't feel right. And that's what I feel like about this place too. It's just like, I feel like it is going to be that moment, like the little girl from Miracle on 34th Street, where I'm just going to be like, this is it. This is it. And I won't have to question and I won't have to worry. But also, I've been this gypsy for so long and I don't know. I told Spirit, I'm like, I'm weary. My soul is tired. I'm like, I need somewhere to settle down again for a while. Because even though like it seems like we were settled down in the same place for almost 5 years, it's like that it didn't never felt like I was settled down. I always felt like I was in some type of like transitional period. It's like I need somewhere, I need to find my people, I need to be able to breathe. And I know Alder really wants to live in a warm climate, and I can't, it has to be dry heat. I'm a triple Sag. I don't like being cold, but I don't like being hot. Like my perfect universe is like 40 to like 85. Those temperatures, nothing above 85. I just don't like being that hot. So, so I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, you guys, I spoke a lot. I hope it was fun for you to get kind of caught up in what's going on in my world. And feel free to catch me up on yours and let me know. There's so many of you that are, very open and psychic. What do you see for Alder and Bubba and I? Where is the road going to take us next? How long do you think we'll be here? I was going through my own deck today. I created my own Oracle deck, and I was like going through the cards and asking questions, and I was getting a lot of different answers, but I kept hearing cancer. So I feel like it's going to be because it's not about someone who has cancer. It was like, I felt like it was either the season or a person that we're going to meet that's going to be really influential on where we end up. Or maybe we'll meet somebody on vacation. You never know, you never know. You never know. So, and I know Spirit's got it all worked out, and it was so funny. I created stop in my deck, so like if somebody keeps asking questions and Spirit's like, stop, like, then they had me create another one called stop in the name of love, like stop, like in the name of love, like stop. And the other day, I felt like Spirit was saying to me, seriously, stop. So I decided to get my cards out and I designed another card that said, no, seriously, stop. And I shit you not, when I was asking questions, they were like, stop. Then the next one was like, stop in the name of love. And then the third one was like, seriously, stop. So I was like, all right, great, because we want to control everything. We're like, I just want to know. I'm like, because I could chill for so long. I'm like, I just gotta know. And they're like, you don't need to know. You'll know when the time is right. And that's why it's so hard to live in the present. It's our ego that wants to know and control it. But I know we're supposed to be here for whatever reason. And, I've learned so much about myself and Alder and our relationship and who we are and who we're not. And I'm excited to see what the next chapter is. And I do hope we get to live in there for a little while. It's a cool little place. And at this point, we have almost 3 months rent saved up. So it's kind of cool. It's like let's at least check it out for that, you know, and then during that time we can save up and decide like where we're going to go, and maybe we'll live in that VW van, maybe we'll flip it and make some good money and go buy some cool place in Northern California. I don't know. Maybe we'll find a place here, because the truth is, as much as we love the peninsula and wanted to live here for so long, we've been traveling up here for so many years. His family's from here, that I was like, you know what, even if we left tomorrow, I'm like, I would still come up here and visit, or like, you know, take groups up here to like do like spiritual, like, you know, workshops or something, like some type of like vacation where people come and we know so many cool secret spots that other people like don't know about. And not that we've exhausted the peninsula, there's so much to see, but we've seen a lot. I mean, I've been all over this beautiful place, so who knows? I guess that is the fun part, right? That's the fun part. It's just the hard part at the same time. All right, you guys, until next time, take really good care of yourselves and each other. I love you so much. Blessed be. Oh,